season came to LA. Terrence Crawford wins a close unanimous decision over Israil Madrimov in a very competitive fight. Very tactical fight. I'm Paulie. This is Paulie TV. So Riyadh season, once again, this time they came to the United States, first ever card in the United States. And I think, overall it was a success. I think these cards are a bit long. On the East Coast, they end real late. I wish they'd sort of have them and make them two different shows, 2 different weeks, because I don't think the casuals are going to watch 6-7 hours of boxing in a row either. I don't mind it, even if we got to stay up late. I don't mind it. I think the hardcore fans won't mind it, but it's going to be hard to get casual fans to become hardcore fans if you put these kind of cards on pay-per-view and then stack them 6-7 fights on top of each other. It's a little bit difficult to add new fans. While the fan base that you already have built in will certainly appreciate it, you also want to keep building the sport for the next generation, and it makes that part of it difficult. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I love the fights. Every time there's a Riyadh season card, there's 2 or 3 upsets, and tonight was no different. Tonight we had Jarrell Anderson got blown away by Bakole. We saw Valenzuela surprise Pitbull Cruz. We saw Jermell Miller probably deserved the decision, but he got a draw with Andy Ruiz. Once again, very, very good fights, very competitive fights. And even the Crawford-Madrimov fight was very, very close. The favorite Crawford won, but man, really good tactical fight. In a lot of high boxing IQ showed by both guys. Let's get to it. First of all, Jarrell Anderson, I thought, had not been looking good going into this fight anyway. I was kind of off the Jarrell Anderson hype train for a little while. It wasn't really convincing me in the fights against Charles Martin and 1 or 2 other fights. Didn't really look like he could handle any of the pressure today against Bakole. As a matter of fact, he never made a single adjustment. Bakole just held his ground, really, and Anderson didn't know how to put him out of position in any single way. He tried to fight him off, which that wasn't going to work. You're a smaller guy. You got to be a little bit more deceptive. It didn't even cross his mind to try to be deceptive. But the thing I was most disappointed in, besides the fact that, he showed he wasn't on the level at all, not even close, he didn't really look disappointed afterwards either. That was more so what I was disappointed in. You just took your first L of your career. You've had, there's been a lot of hype behind you, a lot of push behind you, and now you may have not lived up to it. I mean, you may be dealing with a lot of criticism, and it may be difficult to get that momentum. And he was cool as a cucumber, nonchalant in that post-fight interview. Didn't really care. I don't know, man. I felt like, though, when I took my first L, and it wasn't, and I lost my first fight against a world champion. Bakole, as solid as he is, probably will never become a world champion. So this guy took an L against a guy like this, had a bigger hype train than I ever had, and took it all in stride. I felt like my whole world was coming down when I took my first L. I felt the whole world around me was crumbling down. So I just didn't like the lack of competitive fire. I've noticed it in him before, but tonight really kind of showed me more of that. It was really disappointing, because a lot of the American media has really been pushing him a lot, and I don't think he's of the level, and in any way at all. I think he's actually regressing, and a knockout like this isn't going to help him in his case either. Miller and Ruiz was a pretty solid fight. I thought Miller edged it. Definitely Ruiz broke his hand. I've dealt with broken hand issues before, so I can see that was probably why Ruiz wasn't as active. That hand looked bad after the fight when he cut off the wrap. I'd love to see that rematch. Jermell Miller really let it get away from him, though. I thought he won the fight anyway, but he could have really made it one-sided if he just cut off the ring and pressed behind the jab. Not cutting off the ring, following Ruiz around the ring, and not putting a jab behind, then trying to lead with some wide shots, caused him to miss a lot of the opening shots that he would try in those combinations and wind up in clinches. So while he was coming forward, a lot of times he got the couple of moments stolen from Ruiz during the rounds. Ruiz was backing up, and sometimes he'd catch Miller with a shot here and a shot there in between, just to make the rounds just competitive enough to where maybe you could get them stolen from you. I thought Miller should have approached it a little bit smarter, and if he cut off the ring and came behind the jab, I thought it would have sealed it for him. I don't think you would have been able to make any case to give Ruiz most any rounds. Because once Ruiz started slowing down, and now it's obviously explainable with the broken hand, it really wasn't really active enough to do anything. All Miller had to do was actually just show some accuracy and show some capabilities to cut off the ring, and I think he would have been good. Valenzuela, really, Riki Valenzuela, congrats to him. That was a terrific performance. I knew he was always tough enough. I just didn't know he had the discipline to fight like this. Pitbull had shown some weakness in the Cabrera fight because Cabrera moves a lot. But Cabrera didn't give enough effort to try to win the fight. He just made Pitbull look bad. And I thought that Valenzuela, while he had the physical build to do what Cabrera did, I didn't think he had the talent to do that, and nor the mentality really to do that, to move around the ring and stay disciplined for an entire 12 rounds. But on a moment where it really counts for a world championship, once you become a world champion, it changes the trajectory of your career. Because even if you lose that title, you're now an ex-champion. You'll always be a champion, and that will always keep you in the room to get paid. And what I mean by that is new champions are always looking for ex-champions to defend against. You're always in the conversation for big fights as long as you keep yourself mildly relevant. But you're not always in the conversation until you get that world championship. That world championship, once you have it, it's great. Even if you lose it, you still have a chance to remain in the conversation. I mean, my career was a kind of living proof of that. From 06 to 15, 2006 to 2015, I was almost every year in a major fight, and in between that, I won 2 world championships, but also the reputation I made kept me in the room. Valenzuela has not changed his career and so on a night where he needed to be his most disciplined, he did an excellent job of staying disciplined and pulling off the upset against Pitbull Cruz, who now you have to start asking questions about, because now there's 2 fights in a row where guys who would even, with a little bit of movement, gave him a ton of trouble, a ton of problems. The 140-pound division is really interesting. He's got a lot of good fighters, but nobody's really maintaining a position. Teofimo's inconsistent and doesn't always look great. The guy he beat, Jermaine Ortiz, also doesn't always look great, but he's very, very capable. You've got Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, a lot of question marks about them. Subriel Matias was the boogeyman, and he looked terrible against Liam Paro. Liam Paro looked average going into the Matias fight, and now he's a world champion. And of course Valenzuela, Riki Valenzuela, and Pitbull, who were lightweights. And Pitbull, there was a lot of momentum with the knockout over Rolly Romero, and the way he looked at lightweight and giving Tank Davis a tough fight. There's a lot of push behind him, and all of a sudden now he's gone. He's eliminated from the title picture. He's still an ex-champion. He'll still be in there. But I think the 140-pound division gives us a lot of opportunities to make fun fights because nobody can keep a top spot there. And so I think nobody keeping the top spot there keeps everything open. And more so than that, because there's not a lot of stars or any for that matter, hopefully they'll fight each other, We'll see what happens. And then keep in mind, you also got the kid, Castillo, I think his name is, the guy that beat Gary Antoine Russell. The guy that beat Gary Antoine Russell is fighting Sandor Martin, who's a known spoiler as well. They're fighting for the vacant WBC title that Haney vacated. So those are going to be another couple names in the 140-pound division that are not stars, but are very, very capable. And of course, Gary Antoine Russell also is a guy who's very, very capable. I think it's a fun weight class, and it gets weight classes like this get me excited because once you got too many stars, they start not to fight each other. They start looking to protect the reputations and brands, and they don't want to fight each other anymore. But right now, when you got a weight class like this, the 140-pound division is a lot of fun. There's not really a lot of stars, but guys who were right on the cusp and could really fight each other and make for fun fights. Let's get into the main event. I thought it was a terrific position battle. Both guys fought a high-level chess match. High-level chess match. Early on, I thought Madrimov was actually doing well. I don't know what the commentators were watching when they were saying, when is he going to make that move? What do you mean when he's going to make that move? He's the one pressing the fight while Crawford was spending the entire first quarter of the fight on the perimeter of the ring. Usually you're telling the guy who's staying on the perimeter of the ring moving around that he's got to get going, not the guy who's pressing him. I mean, I don't know what the hell they were watching, but eventually they put their pom-poms down and started actually watching the fight. And I thought they were, pretty much did a good job of calling it. And I thought, Crawford's closing surge may have edged it for him. Could have been a draw, but I don't have a problem with Crawford getting the decision. But I was really, really impressed with both guys. First of all, Madrimov, a lot of guys didn't know who he was. So for him to fight this level of fight, will against the top pound for pound fighter in the world, will really impress people and will keep him a player remaining in the 154-pound division, a fun 154-pound division where a lot of fun names are and a lot of good fighters are, and a lot of potential matchups could be made there. Crawford coming into this fight was looked at, if he won the fight, they were going to try to make the Canelo fight. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on this. I thought Crawford boxed intelligently, boxed terrific. His high IQ as always. Wasn't as strong obviously at this weight class, and you saw that, but he was still, his IQ was high enough, and he was able to win a competitive matchup. I'm just wondering if he wasn't able to keep the forward pressure of Madrimov, deter the forward pressure of Madrimov. How's he going to deter the forward pressure of Canelo? Because Canelo, even if he's not an active fighter, with his hands, if he doesn't throw a lot of punches, he's mentally pressuring you by physically being present in your face the whole fight. He really does that well. He presses a lot. He doesn't take a step back. He's been doing that ever since probably the second Golovkin fight, where he just comes forward and he mentally presses you, even if he doesn't get off a lot of punches, and it sort of starts to break guys. And I don't think that would work against the very best super middleweights in the world today, because I think he'd have to get off enough punches, and I don't think they would be bothered by it because they would physically push him back either way in the clenches. But against a guy like Crawford, who's small, now you got a problem for Crawford because it doesn't seem like he has the punching power to really deter the pressure of a guy like Madrimov. So he would never deter the pressure of a guy like Canelo. So Canelo would eventually get to him. Even if Crawford is very, very, astute in the ring and always knows his place, you're going to have to push back a little bit against Canelo, because Canelo's pressure would be even more than Crawford's pressure. Canelo's pressure would be even more than Madrimov's pressure. So it's just something to think about, these are just things that are crossing my mind here. I was really, really satisfied with the card overall, but there's a curiosity of where does Crawford go from here? He looked good. Just because the fight was competitive doesn't mean he didn't look good. I just think it's impressive on Madrimov's part, and I think it's impressive on Crawford's part. I was really, really impressed. There were so many layers to this fight tonight. It was a high IQ fight, and I don't know that everybody will really be able to appreciate it, because you have to have a certain level of boxing IQ to really understand the layers that were going on. But I think if you're a boxing fan, you'll have appreciated this fight, and I appreciated both fighters for it, even if it wasn't a drag out fight in the mud. You still got your upsets on the undercard. Riyadh season is still making great matchups, and hopefully they continue to do that for the remainder of the year, because we got I think in October there's probably going to be I think there's better be an Bivol card, and then in December there's also the Fury and Usyk rematch as well. And who knows, maybe we'll do something else in the U.S. in between. We'll see how they go. Kalajdzic doing a great job, and I think a lot of people are really happy with these matchups. And who's really suffering is the boxing odds makers. The boxing odds makers had it so easy for a while. It's so easy to decide who's going to win and lose in boxing matches. But these Riyadh season cards have consistent upsets, multiple upsets on every card. So I want to know what you guys think of these cards. Are they too long? Should they shorten them up? Maybe break them up into 2 shows? That question is probably more so for the guys who aren't hardcore, because I think the hardcore fans like myself and probably a lot of you guys that listen at home, you guys don't mind the long fight cards. But don't you think that if they're a little shorter and they're broken up into 2 shows, maybe back-to-back weeks, more casuals will tune in as well? Or maybe you don't have to make them always pay-per-view this way if you make like double headers instead. I don't know, just thinking out loud, really. I like the fact that they did do a show in LA. It was awesome. Just would like to do it end it a little earlier, because on the East Coast it got really, really late as well. But overall, terrific shows. And what do you guys think of Crawford Canelo? Should the fight be made based on this performance tonight against Madrimov? Does Crawford convince you? Can he be competitive against Canelo? Can he beat Canelo? Is he too small for Canelo? Let me know, guys.